7:05. Okay, I'm going to try to be on time. But this is a topic I really love, and I'd love. You know what I would really like? What I'd really like is to have discussion. I'm not like a speaker kind of guy. I'm like a let's dialogue and talk. But anyway, I guess we can't do that. But so tonight we're talking on sanity restored or sanity. I want to address before I go there. I forgot I was supposed to introduce myself. I always forget that. So I am an outrageously blessed, grateful truster in the great mystery. I have an addiction to gambling, and my name is Don. And for people who are new or relatively new, this particular topic's interesting because it's step 2 of the 12 steps. So I want to kind of meet or speak to both kind of new people who maybe haven't even started this journey, as well as people who are on the journey. I think this step applies to both. So I want to address some questions, 3 questions. How do intelligent people repeatedly make self-destructive choices, even when that destruction is so obvious? How can that be? Second question, are there solutions that are proven to work? And 3, what does CR have that other therapies don't have? So the topics, and I'm going to just share a side note. In answer to question 1, how do intelligent people repeatedly make self-destructive choices? And so I actually knew this when I was a kid. I knew it because my dad was very clear. He knew this. He knew the answer to this, right? And he would tell us all the time. 1, they're either not intelligent, they're stupid, or they're defective people, or probably both. That was his answer. And for him, it was just common sense, right? Stupid people make stupid decisions. And lazy, weak-willed, irresponsible, selfish people, they choose pleasure over work. They choose the easy way. They choose the short-term gain. And so if they end up as drunks or addicts or junkies or homeless or welfare or all of this stuff, then they deserve what they get. This is the household I grew up in. So he's gone now, but that idea, that perspective still exists in our culture today. And I don't know about you, I expect you hear it as much as I do. Well, I'll get back to that later. But I have 5 topics I want to talk about tonight. 1, I want to talk about some empirical facts about hurts, habits, and hang-ups and addiction. I'm quite a nerd in terms of I'm very interested in research and facts and science and medicine and I like to research everything. I don't like to just when people make claims, I always look it up. I challenge it, right? So in my presentation, I'm not I'm going to talk about some of the research. I'm not listing all the research, and I'm not even stating it in research kind of terms. But if you're a nerd like me and you want that research, come see me because I have it all. I have it all referenced. It's just an FYI for you. So I want to talk about some empirical facts about this. I want to talk about some facts about steps 1 and 2, what they do for us. I want to talk about what is sanity, define it, and what's the relationship between denial and insanity. I want to talk about what a Christ-centered recovery offers. And I want to end with 2 core questions that determine readiness for step 2. So to start here, background research. So this is, like I said, this is actual empirical research from medical and science and etc. Alcoholics Anonymous, it turns out, and Celebrate Recovery are actually more effective at maintaining continuous abstinence over 1 year long than CBT or MET therapies alone. And if you know anything about that's kind of a standard for regular therapy. That matters because sustained recovery, not short-term improvement, is our goal. So when we look at the steps, I'm going to go to step 1, and because it's related to step 2, steps 1 and 2. Step 1 says we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And at CR, we're not just looking at alcohol, we're looking at any hurt, habit, or hang-up. But step 1 is fundamentally not about what your hurt, hang-up is. It's fundamentally about denial and more research. Research shows that greater insight into one's condition predicts better adherence and stronger abstinence outcomes. So people do far better the more aware they are, the more insight they have about themselves. Now, what's weird about life is that yet in these same studies, 57% of the people who had a substance use disorder didn't recognize the severity of their problem. That's denial. So, and because of that, of course, they were less successful than the people who had insight. So one of my goals is to help us all to raise our insight, have better understanding, more awareness, better understanding of ourselves. So how is it that this happens? Well, denial protects the ego at the cost of life. Denial is the cognitive engine of addiction insanity. Denial distorts thinking. Can we have that slide? Slide 6. Yeah, there it is. Denial distorts thinking. Denial, then, that distorted thinking causes us to have dysfunctional choices and actions. Dysfunctional outcomes result, and then we repeat the cycle again. And that's kind of what insanity is. So, I don't usually use paper, I usually have a computer. I'm old school tonight. So, denial is, in a sense, the insanity that convinces us we're not insane. And this is the relationship between denial and insanity, and also then between steps 1 and 2. But someone might ask, well, isn't accepting powerlessness from step 1, isn't that giving up? And the answer is no, not at all. It's simply acknowledging and accepting what is factual, what is reality, what is truth, and that willpower alone has not worked. They could also ask, but in step 1, if I'm powerless, what hope do I have? Good question. And that is what step number 2 is about. Step number 2 is we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So let's talk about sanity. What is sanity? Sanity can be defined simply as accurate thinking under stress, or wholeness of mind, or making decisions based on fact. Insanity then, on the other hand, is repeating destructive behaviors despite the consequences. That was my very first question tonight. So that big question again was, how do intelligent people repeatedly make self-destructive choices? So my dad thinks it's because they're defective, but I'm going to say that the research says, no, that's not the reason. Denial leads to distorted thinking. So the big book describes denial as an inability to differentiate the true from the false, an inability to see facts about the consequences. So it's not saying the reason is because we're defective people. They're talking about it as an ability. There's a lack of ability. So today, modern science, neuroscience, medical research and stuff confirms this. We understand a lot more about brain function and such. Neuroscience and other fields have identified many effects that occur under craving and stress in addiction. For instance, decision-making weakens. The reward system overrides logic. Memory becomes selective. And the mind explains away warning signs to reduce internal discomfort. From this perspective, denial is not simply moral failure, as my dad thought. It's impaired perception under stress. It's an ability issue. And the good news about that is impaired perception can be restored and abilities can be developed. That's the good news. So let me ask you, I want to look at, we're not going to do that slide. The technology's not working. So what I want you to do is I'm going to look through just talk about quickly some of the distorted thinkings that are common, okay? And I would like you to just think about if any of these are recognizable to you. Do you have these either for yourself or other people that you know? So for instance, minimizing. It wasn't that bad. I'm sure I'm just overreacting. Rationalization. I had a tough week. Anyone in this situation would be drinking. Comparison. At least I'm not as bad as selective memory. I remember how fun and exciting that was, but we don't remember the bad part of it. Projection. Oh, my boss just overreacted. They're all overreacting, right? Urgency. I need relief right now. Overconfidence. I can handle just one. Not a problem. By the way, that was one that was big for me in gambling. I always kept thinking, I'm sure I could just go and just gamble for a little bit and only spend $50 and then I'll just leave. And for some reason, lack of ability was the reason. It's not because I was a bad person. I couldn't do it. Why? Because now I admit, because I'm an addict. So these thoughts at the time, though, feel reasonable. I didn't feel like I was being unreasonable or out to lunch or insane or nothing. I thought, I'm a practical person. I'm fairly successful in most areas of my life, including my business and family and stuff. So, I have control. I can do this. But they were distorted because they were not paying attention to the actual reality that was being produced by my actions and by the distorted thinking. So I just want to, before we move on, I just want to make clear something quickly, and that is it's not a simple, just pure thing that all of these distortions only come from addiction. They also come from other things, and they combine with addiction, right? So for instance, trauma, as an example. So trauma thoughts combine with these to produce more distorted thinking. Trauma thoughts are things like, I'm not safe, I need escape immediately, this feeling will destroy me, I can't trust anyone. So those are combined with our addictive thinking. Or depression-driven thoughts like, nothing's going to ever change, I'm worthless, why even try, right? Or anxiety-driven thoughts, something terrible is going to happen. I can feel it. I won't be able to handle this. I'll lose control. It's interesting. I have a friend that specifically has said these exact words. These are meant to be kind of general types of thoughts, but this person literally says these exact words. The fear is that they'll lose control and they won't be able to get back. But regardless of the source of these things, distorted thinking leads to impaired decisions. And that is the insanity that step 2 is addressing. So, going back to the step 2, so that's the insanity part of step 2. What about the first part of step 2? Step 2 says, we came to believe that a higher power. So one thing I want you to notice about that, came to believe is a process. It doesn't say we fully understood everything. It doesn't say we instantly believed. It doesn't say we solved all the theological issues. it says, we came to believe. So empirical research also shows us that involvement in AA or CR and openness to a higher power are associated with improved recovery outcomes. Why might this be? Well, one of the reasons is because this step corrects illusions of control. So think about this, it's just kind of logical, right? If we've not found the power to quit within ourselves, isn't it kind of logical and reasonable to seek a power greater than ourselves for that recovery? It's not that far out there. Empirical research supports the value and effectiveness of step 2. It says that one of the things it does is it develops the ability to open up a space for help. And that greatly improves recovery. You can get help here at this community for things like a sponsor, a step study, a group, a structured program. A new identity can be formed, a new value system. And the empirical research says that taking this stance also fosters humility. It fosters honest self-appraisal. So that goes back to what I said before about an awareness. It shifts us from self-reliance to supported recovery. So I just do want to say, though, if belief feels difficult for you, if that's kind of the stumbling block for you, and I've actually talked to many people and friends who've said this, right? The reason they can't do AA is because they have this higher power thing, and it's all, they can't do it. But what I want to tell you, if that's your situation, is one, it is empirically, scientifically proven that clinically shown that it is higher levels of good outcomes from it. So the thing here is, as per step 2, we came to believe you do not have to solve theology to begin recovery. If belief feels difficult, don't get stopped there. That's not what's required to start this. And we welcome you and want you to be here. Thanks. And so what is required? Here's what's required. It's required that you be willing. Be willing to show up, keep showing up. Be willing to participate fully. Be willing to test the process. It's okay to test the process, see if it works, try it out. That willingness alone begins restoring sanity. So here's the key claim that I'm proposing. I'm proposing that when we act on distorted thinking, we dramatically increase the likelihood of destructive outcomes, especially over time. I'm proposing that when we act on facts and values, we increase the likelihood that outcomes will lead to freedom, stability, and growth. And that step 2 restores sanity by helping us correct distorted ideas. So the last question that I had was, what is unique or special about CR? So I want to talk about that for the ending here. Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered program built on the 12 steps and the Beatitudes. So in CR, it defines sanity as wholeness of mind and making decisions based on truth. So it aligns with the others, including AA. But what's different is that at CR, Jesus Christ is understood to be the only higher power who offers the truth, the power, the way, and the life. That's a difference. As a side note, I want to say this delicately because I want to make sure I'm not misleading this when I say this, but if you are afraid, because I have friends, close friends who feel this, if you're afraid that you might be the defective person that my dad was talking about, if you have a fear of that, this is the place for you. Because as an evangelical Christian program, we hold that all people are defective, are sinners, but our higher power loves us, accepts us, forgives us, and invites us to new life in this family. You're in the right place. So in CR, when we choose to stand on the belief that Christ can restore us to sanity, we receive special gifts and that align with recovery. So step 2 doesn't just transform our distorted thinking, it begins restoring a life for us. Sanity isn't abstract, it shows up in real ways. It shows up as strength when we feel weak. It shows up as acceptance instead of denial. It shows up as new life instead of repetition. It shows up as integrity instead of fragmentation. It shows up as trust instead of fear, and a higher power that makes it all possible. That is sanity. So CR wouldn't be anything without an acrostic, so we're going to have an acrostic, but we're going to go quick because our time's almost up. So the acrostic is sanity, and it stands for strength, acceptance, new life, integrity, trust, and your higher power. So strength, S stands for strength. God becomes our strength when ours fails. Instead of relying on limited willpower, we rely on a power greater than ourselves. Psalm 73:26 says, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart." A stands for acceptance. We learn realistic acceptance. We stop blaming. We accept what we cannot change. We take responsibility for what we can. And acceptance reduces resistance and restores clarity. N stands for new life. At any point in our life, even at our lowest, we can receive transformation and renewed hope. 2 Corinthians says, if anyone is in Christ, their new creation has come. The old is gone, the new is here. At CR, recovery is much more than behavior management, which might be more in line with secular therapies, for example. It is transformation of the whole person. It is identity transformation. I stands for integrity. We begin telling the truth. We follow through. Proverbs 11:3 says, the integrity of the upright guides them. So we align then in our step studies and in our program, we align actions with our values. Integrity restores trust, and both self-trust as well as relational trust. T stands for trust. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. So we move from self-reliance to God-reliance. And as that happens, we build relationships, not crisis-based ones, but real ones. And Y stands for your higher power. Jesus loves you as you are. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So step 2 is not about earning love, it's about receiving power. And Corinthians, do we have it? Yeah, Corinthians, no temptation is overtaking you that God will provide a way out. You're not alone in this. You can be part of this community. In closing, so I want to review. So I asked the question, how do intelligent people repeatedly make self-destructive choices? It's an ability issue. It's not because you're a bad person. You need help, it's okay. Are there solutions that have proven to work? Yes. Many of them, and CR and AA have some great advantages. What does CR have that other therapies don't? A Christ-centered program, forgiveness and accepting community, accepting without judgment. So the topics we covered was, I talked about some facts about hurts and habits, that it's an ability issue. I talked about some facts about steps 1 and 2, that step 1 is about powerlessness. It's necessary, but it's incomplete. You can't stop at 1, you'd just be powerless. How addiction distorts thinking under stress. I talked a little bit about the neuroscience of that. Common cognitive distortions that we talked about in addiction. The research supported the role of the higher power orientation in sustained recovery, and how step 2 corrects illusions of control and restores supported recovery. So we talked about what sanity is and how denial and sanity are two sides of the same coin. and what a Christ-centered recovery offers. The only thing left is the last that I said I wanted to cover was the two core questions that determine readiness for step 2. So step 1 requires rigorous honesty. Step 2 requires willingness. Sanity is restored through a process. You show up, you do the work, you stay connected, you trust the program. So here are the essential questions that I would ask tonight. Are you willing? Are you willing? Are you willing to consider that there might be a higher power, a greater power than you? And if so, if that willingness could mean the difference between the life you desire versus remaining where you are you willing to try? I think there is a handout. Is there a handout? Yes. There's a handout if you want, and the handout just says, it's like you could do like homework or something, right? It says, can you see any distorted thinking in your own life? If tonight I would suggest this is good for anyone, no matter where you are in your recovery life or how long you've been a Christian or anything. We have distorted thinking because we're human beings and our brain is not perfect. It uses what's called heuristic thinking. So it's not, what somebody once said, our brains are not logic machines. They're associational machines that can do logic. But we have to kind of work at the logic part. So if you see that, the handout says write out a few of them, maybe 3, maybe 1, whatever. And if you would agree that it's possible that you could be acting on your dysfunctional stories, on your and that you could see that maybe if you acted on facts instead, that you could get better outcomes, then you could move from dysfunction by trying to name what your stories actually are, that you're believing and living in and making choices about, and instead kind of let them go, give them to God, and look at what kind of facts their actual facts are, and then based on those facts, what are reasonable actions you can take to align with your values and to get you what you want. That would be my suggestion and challenge for anyone tonight. Thanks for letting me share.